Welcome to your Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving straight into some pretty big news coming out of New Zealand rugby.
That's right, the departure of All Blacks winger Mark Tele'a to Japan. It's certainly got people talking.
Absolutely. We're going to unpack what this might mean using Gregor Paul's piece over on RugbyPass, the one titled Mark Tele'a's Departure Sends Unsettling Message to NZRU Over Wanaway All Blacks.
And crucially, we'll also dig into some of the chat happening in the comment section below that article. Lots of different views there.
Exactly. So our mission today is really to get a handle on the various perspectives, why he's going, what the impact might be on the All Blacks winger stocks. We want to get you right up to speed.
Should be a good one.
And hey, if you love getting right into the guts of these rugby discussions, make sure you hit subscribe on Rugby Obsession. You won't want to miss our next deep dive.
So, starting off, the initial reaction to Telea heading to Toyota Verblitz, joining up with Fozzie and Hansen. Interestingly enough, it hasn't exactly been, mass panic in New Zealand, has it?
No, it really hasn't seemed that way, which is interesting in itself. So why do we think that is?
Well, the sort of prevailing narrative you hear from pundits, commentators, fans, it often comes back to his age. He's turning 29.
Right, and the idea that there's this wave of exciting young wing talent coming through Super Rugby Pacific, like the cupboard isn't bare.
Yeah, exactly. And you even had someone like Israel Dagg suggesting Telea maybe wasn't getting that many chances recently anyway, and that the coaches would naturally be looking younger.
He sort of framed it as wing being a young man's position, didn't he?
He did. And you hear the names, don't you? Caleb Tangitau, Leroy Carter, Amoni Narwa, Tamoshi Tavatanawai.
Plus Lester Fainga'anuku coming back. It does paint a picture of, plenty of options.
But, and this is where that RugbyPass article really throws a spanner in the works. It argues that this idea of an abundance of outrageously talented wings might actually be, and I'm quoting here, grossly exaggerated and possibly misplaced.
Okay, that definitely makes you stop and think. Because there's a huge difference between lighting up Super Rugby and being a proven test match player, isn't there?
Absolutely massive. Telea, World Rugby Breakthrough Player in 2023, 19 caps.
Yeah.
He's shown he could do it at that level.
And test rugby demands different things. It's not just about gas and finishing, is it?
Not at all. Think about high ball security under pressure, defensive reads, work rate off the ball. The article makes a great point that Super Rugby can be a bit more open, maybe doesn't always test those specific skills quite as intensely as a tight test match.
Yeah, the tactical kicking, the defensive grind.
Yeah.
It's a different beast.
And the piece highlights Telea's performance for the Blues against the Crusaders right after the news broke.
Even in bad weather, he was still that, bruising, bustling force, making hard yards, taking high kicks, covering defensively.
It really shows that broader skill set, which, interestingly, the Blues clearly valued. They apparently offered him a 4-year extension.
Wow, 4 years. So they obviously believed his work rate, his strength, those instincts. They thought that would keep him at the top level, even past 30.
Seems that way. They didn't just see him as a speed merchant who'd fade. And you have to remember his versatility, too.
Good point. Plays left, plays right. Seems able to adapt his game like we saw against Scotland or the box. Different challenges, different approaches.
It really calls into question that sometimes lazy narrative about wingers being done by 27 or 28.
Yeah, I mean, you look back, sure, Cullen, Rokokoko, Sivavatu, Lomu, they finished their test careers relatively early, age-wise.
But then you've got guys like Doug Howlett, Rico Gear. They played on for longer at the highest level, so it's not a set rule at all.
Which leads to another interesting point the article raises. Does New Zealand sometimes, maybe, overestimate its depth?
It cites examples, doesn't it? Like Richard Kahui having to play center in the 2011 World Cup final when wingers were injured.
Or think about 2015 with Milner Spetter and Naholo, or 2019 with Reese and Bridge, pretty inexperienced guys thrown into World Cups. It suggests maybe the well isn't always quite as deep as assumed.
It implies there's always a bit of a gamble when you rely solely on potential overproven experience at that level.
Definitely food for thought. And listen, if you're finding this kind of detailed rugby analysis valuable, do make sure you're subscribed to Rugby Obsession. We delve into these topics regularly.
So, thinking about those potential replacements again, the article does poke a few holes, or at least raises questions.
Like what specifically?
Well, concerns perhaps about Fainga'anuku under the high ball, or maybe defensively out wide sometimes.
Okay.
And Narawa, while obviously talented, maybe not seen as that pure finisher, and perhaps looked a bit nervous in his earlier tests.
These are the fine margins at international level, aren't they?
Exactly. And it's telling that someone like Jeff Wilson, a great all-black winger himself, came out expressing concern.
What did it say?
Called Telea a superstar, highlighted that unique skill set, the power, the footwork in close quarters, and said he thought Telea had several good years left in him.
That's a pretty strong endorsement from someone who knows the demands of that jersey.
It really is. And then you dip into those comments below the article, and wow, it's a real mix.
What kind of things are people saying?
All sorts. You got some suggesting maybe redirecting some salary from other positions, like Rieko Ioane's, to keep a guy like Telea.
Interesting. Others point out he hasn't even hit 20 tests yet, so calling him past his prime seems premature.
Yeah, and comparisons are made to guys like Colby or Arenze for the Boks,
Hmm.
or other international wingers who've played well into their 30s.
But then you get the counter arguments too, I assume.
Oh, yeah. People saying the likes of Narawa or Tavada Vanawai are absolutely starring in Super Rugby, maybe even outperforming current All Blacks right now.
Someone even reckoned Telea looked like he'd lost a yard of pace this season.
Right. And the whole financial side comes up. Can NZRU afford top dollar for everyone? Is wing a position where you can maybe find replacements more easily? That gets debated.
The idea that it's maybe more transient than, say, first five or lock.
Kind of. Plus, there's speculation about coaching preferences.
Yeah.
Maybe Razor rates someone like Reese more highly for his system.
The coaching factor. Always part of the mix.
But generally, reading through, you don't sense widespread panic from the public commenting. It's more like, okay, we have these other names. Let's see how they go.
And maybe an understanding that for Telea himself, it's a smart move, cashing in while his value is arguably at its peak.
Yeah, that pragmatic view definitely comes through, too. It's professional sport, after all.
So it really is a complex picture, isn't it? You got valid points on all sides, from seeing it as just the natural cycle of things
To viewing it as losing a genuinely unique, powerful asset, just as he's hitting his prime experience-wise.
which brings us to the big question for you, listening in. Having heard all this, where do you land?
Yeah, what's your gut feeling? Are you confident New Zealand has the depth to cover Telea's departure easily? Or do you think his specific skill set, that power game, will be a bigger loss than many expect?
We really want to know what you think. Jump into the Rugby Obsession community and share your perspective. Let's get the discussion going.
And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive, getting into the nitty-gritty of it all,
Then please do make sure you subscribe to Rugby Obsession. We'll keep bringing you these insightful breakdowns.
absolutely. Well, thank you for listening to this Rugby Obsession deep dive.
We look forward to you listening to our next episode.